The following is intended for mature audiences only. Discretion is advised.
This is a Geek Bro podcast. What's up, besties? This is episode 15, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes, and guess what? I am still the second part of that title. It's been a really long time. I really missed you guys, but hey, we are back, and I have a really amazing 50th episode for you today. Today's episode is Robbie Rist. Robbie is an actor and musician. You may know him as Cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch, or you might know him as the voice of Michelangelo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. This was such a fun episode. I had such a blast talking to Robbie. He has so much insight, and he's such a funny dude. We really had a blast, and I really think you guys are going to love this episode. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Robbie Rist. Let's get started, man. I mean,
you haven't been rolling? What are you talking about?
I mean, I've been recording. I've been recording.
I'm 56. All right.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, man. It's kind of nuts that you are, because when we met, I feel like I got along with you immediately. I don't know how you felt about it, but I got along with you immediately because are you from the Valley?
Yeah.
Dude, it's like I was born a 12-year-old Valley girl. Like, that's how I that's how I talk. Like, the only thing about me that's different from a Valley girl is my age, and I don't like pumpkin spice that much. Like,
there you go, sure.
Yeah. But that's one of the reasons why I got along with you, because I was like, dude, this guy talks exactly like me. This is great. Which, I mean, at the end of the day, that's why you're a Ninja Turtle. Because
I think really what it is that I was, a couple of times in my life, like, I got stupid lucky about things that had nothing to do with me other than something, which is the first time was in the middle 70s when I had blonde hair and round glasses, and son of a bitch, so did John Denver.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So I was compared, and it sort of kept me in the front of people's faces even after and before Brady Bunch a little bit, that there was this kid out there who was doing the John Denver thing. And then the Michelangelo thing is another part of it, because I graduated high school in 1982.
Okay.
And pretty much by 1982, everyone I knew was doing Val speak since about 1976. So it had been around, that sort of dude way of talking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird, because actually, if you listen to, I always confuse them, the lead singer of Poison, not the lead singer of Motley Crue.
It's the lead singer of Poison is
Bret Michaels.
Bret Michaels, yeah.
I always confuse him and Vince Neil, because blonde in not great bands,
wear makeup.
Wear makeup.
Yeah.
So Bret Michaels, if you listen to him talk, and he's from Philadelphia. People with a heavy-duty Philly accent sound like surfers also. I wonder if somebody from Philadelphia moved out to the coast, was surfing, and everybody started talking like him, and then it kind of went from there. Because, dude, totally. So check this out. Somebody told me this once. If you are going to, there's a phrase. Every impression, you're an actor.
Yeah.
Every impression has a phrase to get you into it. Okay. Right. So if you want to start on your Sean Connery, learn how to say Whopper Jr.
Okay. Whopper
because
Jr.
Whopper Jr. It comes right out.
That's
Whopper
so
Jr.
good.
Right. So if you want to sound like you're from Philadelphia, there's this phrase someone taught me, which was, if you want to go home, take the ferry across the water. So the thing is, I mean, that totally sounds surfy to me.
Yeah, of course. It does to me too.
But that said, though, between 76 and like 80, 82, something like that, through a combination of making fun of the surf guys who actually talked that way, it became a way that everyone talked. And then Frank Zappa shows up. And then all of a sudden the world goes, do people talk like that? And we had all been talking that way forever. So by the time the turtle thing rolls around, I'm like, at least, look, I may not get the job, but they're going to go, oh, that's pretty convincing surfer, though.
And not only that, but there's so much in pop culture that had that kind of speak, if that makes any sense, even later than Turtles, because like Clueless was a lot like that.
Sure.
You know,
well, Clueless is an offshoot of all of that surf speak.
Yeah. And what's so funny about Clueless is I always loved it. You know, I got my first crush ever as a kid was Alicia Silverstone because of Clueless. I loved that movie, but then when I moved to LA, I got the movie. You know, and I'm like, it made sense now, you know, where I was like, oh, these people are like real. Like, this is like how these people actually are, you know? There's
definitely a culture of that sort of, that snooty white chick thing.
Yeah.
It's like, it's, and it still continues on. However, I do find it amusing that, gosh, I think it was the late 90s, and I'm walking down some street in New York City, in Manhattan, and behind me, I just hear two voices. And it's like, oh my God, like this, I totally got this phone number from this guy. And I called him, he fucking blew me off. And the other was like, no way. And I turn around and they're black. Black women.
I love it.
Man, I mean, perfect argument for all of us being the same. It's just a question of what we're exposed to. 100%. I would say that's a really good example of the only reason that happened is that they were exposed to that. In the same way that all those white rappers, you know, they try to sort of adopt that streetish cadence, you know?
Yeah, 100%, man. That's so true. I love it.
We're all like the same, dude. Whoa.
Just look at the sky, bro.
Who knew? My head hurts now. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What kind of a kid would you say that you were in school? Like, who did you sit with at the lunch table? That kind of thing.
Not there very often.
Really?
Well, I mean, I was working a lot.
Yeah, I know. I know you were working a lot, but...
Yeah, so I had really, like... I mean, I was a show-off when I was 4.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, I'm sure you were too. I mean, one of the things I talk about my parents and their relationship with my art career is they were not expecting a performer. And I guess certain parents, you know, are like, well, I guess that's what we got. We got one of those. My parents, I think, were like, oh, crap and a half.
Yeah.
It's over. Our kid's a performer. Oh God! Now we're, you know. So I bitched them into it.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to be in a movie, and they're like, no. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I want to be in a movie, and they went, that's hilarious. You're 4. 4-year-olds don't know what they want.
Right.
I'm like bullshit. I want to be in a goddamn movie, Mom. So when I was about 6, they took me to a cattle call audition, you know, 200 kids, whatever, thinking I would see what this whole world was like. Right. And I would go, I don't want to do that. That's too many people. It's too competitive. Bullshit. And I got the job. And I think they were fine then. It was when I said, after I did that gig, that I want to do it again. And they went, oh, come on. It's beginner's luck. 2 in a row. It's impossible. Well, it turns out it wasn't all that impossible. So now they have to get the accountant or doctor out of him that we were anticipating.
Right.
And I mean, you know, so basically I was making, I mean, it sounds ridiculous for someone so young, but I was making art when I was just a toddler. I was already beating on instruments. I was already putting on plays for the dog. I was already, you know, putting on the hits to records that I would put on. You know, it was, you know, I mean, how old were you when you, I mean, have you always felt the bug, or were you like 13, you made a joke, somebody laughed, and you went,
man,
oh.
It's so funny that you say that, because as you were telling your whole story, I mean, it's why I think we get along, is because I feel like it's exactly how I grew up. Like, it's like, other than me, like, being on like the biggest child like network of all time as a kid, you know.
Yeah. I think that's once again, that's an access issue more than anything else.
Sure. Well, and part of it, to be honest, is like just because of where I grew up and my culture. You know, my culture is very, like, Latin culture is very opposite of LA. You know, we're anti-therapy. You know, where
yeah. Well, it's a certain kind of Latin culture, I think.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, so are you Puerto Rican or Cubano?
I'm Cuban. I'm
okay,
Cuban.
there you go. Okay, so Cubano.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm trying to sort of get my way in with the host.
Yeah. You've had your way in forever.
Okay, so Cubans definitely have it's a super conservative crowd.
Yes.
Yeah, and so, I think, I mean, it's just like anything else. It's so weird about Spanish-speaking people is that just because they all speak Spanish doesn't mean it's the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
El Salvadorans have a completely different, they're all goddamn hippies, and the Spanish look at the Mexicans as, sort of lesser. It's like this whole... It's amazing, the Tower of Babel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's the opposite of the Tower of Babel. We found so many ways to talk to each other. Nobody can communicate anymore.
Yeah, and what's so funny about that actually is like I actually realized this when I went to El Salvador and I was talking to some people and they wanted to hear me talk in Spanish, and I spoke in Spanish. And they just immediately started laughing. And I was like, what's so funny? And they're like, you're clearly Cuban. And I was like, yeah, I am. And then I was like, how did you know? And they're like, because it's exactly like America. When you hear somebody talk in a specific accent, you can hear, oh, they're from New York, or they're from Boston, or they're from LA, or they're from wherever. And what I learned that day was that Cubans are the rednecks of Spanish culture. So it's just, yeah, it's nuts.
I've been to Spain a bunch of times. And
I've been wanting to go forever, man. It's beautiful over there.
Go soon. While it's still a kick-ass country, go soon. Because, it's falling victim to the sort of, populist wave that sort of swept the planet in the last few years.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, I started going there in 2002. And I never experienced it's such a laid-back culture.
Yeah.
It's an entire culture based on one word. Mañana. We'll do it in the morning. Don't worry about it. We didn't get to it today. We'll do it tomorrow. It's just we're going to the beach. It's just kind of how they're like, it was really amazing. Because I came home. Have you been? Oh yeah. So you've been to El Salvador. So you've been off continent.
I have many places.
And I think one of the issues that Americans face, and it's a super easy to fix one, is most of them have never left their block, let alone their neighborhood or their city.
Yeah.
And how can you? When I went for the first, I'd done some other traveling stuff as well, but it really struck me because I was I was in my late 30s or whatever when I started going, and I remember seeing CNN International in one of the hotels, and I'm like, all of this news is from around the world.
Yeah.
Did you know that things happen in Malawi? Wow.
Of course.
I'll bet you the discussion that we're having now, in that little moment, if there was a typical American in on this conversation, he'd probably go, wait, before you go any further, Malawi? And we'd have to go, yeah, it's African. Never mind, we're talking. But But yeah, that's it. Not today, but I got off topic, which will happen.
No, not at all. And in fact, I wanted
Spanish and what is it? They're South American. Argentina. Argentinians and Spanish, their Spanish is remarkably similar. An Argentinian can move to Spain and kind of blend in.
Mm-hmm.
I find that amazing that, we have all these in America. Hell, you drive 3 hours out of Los Angeles and all of a sudden people start talking like this. And I'm like, we're in California.
Yes.
Texas. Easy. Yeah.
That's great. So let me ask you this: when you were growing up, and we'll get to the things that you did as far as like your career and everything in a bit. But
but wait, before we do, see, I'm sorry, I hate to hijack, but you still have to tell me. You have to tell me this thing about your family and you wanting to be a performer, and then going, why are you throwing your life away?
You're so sweet for even caring, for even wanting to know.
This fascinates me because I think we all, to be a performer in the first place, there has to be something wrong with you.
Oh yeah, there's so much wrong with me, dude.
There does. I think it's a genetic issue that there's a little goop in there that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And so I'm fascinated by, because there's so many ways into this thing. There are people whose parents were passed over for the lead in our town in junior high, and they made a vow that was never going to happen again. So they had a kid that they said, you're going to be in our town.
Yeah.
And they raised them to be in our town. So there's that way into entertainment.
Right.
And then there's, the people that had never done it before and they were like in their 20s and they just got a job. And then there's the weirdos who were like kind of always doing it.
Right. If it makes any sense, I was always somebody that was striving for attention because I feel like I didn't get enough of it.
Are you an only child?
I was until I was 10.
You had only child syndrome where you're I'm getting all of it.
Yeah, so there's that, but also like I had a single mom raising me, so there was that. It was just a whole cocktail of weird stuff. So like, and also my mom was working multiple jobs. So whenever I'd be like, hey mom, look at me do this. Like my mom has the personality where she's like, which is normal, where you've used all your energy for the day and you're just like, all right, cool. Like, I don't really care, so then I just find somebody that did,
right.
You know what I mean? And that was literally it,
right.
And even still to this day where I even realized it while it was happening last night. I and you're gonna hate me for this, but I recently got into Fleetwood Mac.
Well, why would I? Well, wait. The question is, which Fleetwood Mac? Are we talking 70s?
70s, yeah.
What's
Rumors,
her name?
Rumors,
yeah.
Yeah. So like the only reason why is just because like, come on, dude, like you haven't heard Fleetwood Mac and like, I grew up in, I say this on the podcast all the time, but I grew up in a very conservative Christian home. I only watched like Christian movies and listened to Christian music and things like that. And it wasn't until I went to college till I started like hearing real music. Like, I mean, I knew who Queen was, because I watched movies, but yeah, like I didn't really, other than like Go Your Own Way, like I didn't really know who Fleetwood Mac was, so, and I was listening to Rumors and then it got to a point where I was listening to Landslide, which is a popular song. And I was explaining to my mom, I was like, man, Stevie Nicks writes these heavy lyrics. Like she just writes really heavy stuff. And she was like, how so? And I was explaining like the imagery of like how she talks about like how she went up to the mountain and saw her reflection in the snow and all these like beautiful images of how hurt she was, by this person, and I was explaining it to her and she was just like, yeah. All right, cool. I was just like, all right, man. Like, I'm going to find somebody that cares as much as I do about this.
Like, yeah, well, I think there is a thing about, I was, my sister moved out when I was 9.
Yeah.
So our only child years are actually flipped. because like you're an only child up until 10.
Yes.
I have a sister up until 9. I mean, she's still around, but she moves out, and I'm now, it's just me. And part of the reason that I wanted to be a performer is I want to be heard.
Yes.
So, and you know, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to my Facebook feed or not, but boy, is that evidence of my philosophy. Yeah. I'm just like, all the time.
I love it, honestly.
No, I get it. It's all, I think there's two things I think for artists. One is this thing of, I want to be heard. And the other one is, I think up until they learn better, most performers are way better with "I love you, ladies and gentlemen" than "I love you." It's a lot less scary to receive love from many without having to give out as much than to actually have to do a one-on-one thing. You know, I'm cutting a vein open, you're cutting a vein open.
Yeah.
And I think that also eventually, I mean, I definitely was true in my case.
Yeah.
You know, it was sort of like,
you're speaking so much to my heart right now. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. You won't, it's a coping device. It's a way of alleviating fear.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is, you talk about I grew up in a super conservative house, and it seems to me that, and I don't know if this is universal, but in my house, it really seemed to me like everybody was a little afraid to feel anything.
Yeah.
And
I can relate to that.
And that just made me like, a part of my obsession with music is when I was younger and I was obsessed with the AM radio, it seemed like different songs touched different things a lot. I felt them a lot. There's a song called it's called "Run Joey Run." Okay. It came out in 1974. A guy named David Geddes. It made up, it was top 10 hit. And the song is about a guy who gets a call from his underage girlfriend in the middle of the night, whose dad has just found out that they've done it. And she says, "My dad's got a gun, and you better get the hell out of town." So what Joey does is he goes over to his girlfriend's house because he's dumb. And if I hear there's a gun over there, I would listen to her and go, I'll see you tomorrow, or maybe even later than that. We don't know. That said, he goes over to her house where as they're running to be together, he sees the dad and he's raising his gun to shoot at him, and she takes the bullet. Okay, now, mind you, not a lot of songs like that around being written today, but something about the sadness of, and it's way melodramatic. It's leader of the pack, you know what I mean? It's way overblown for what it is and all of that. But for some reason, the emotional content of it, that sense of loss and confusion and all of those things, they really got in there and stuck with me. And it was in movies too.
Oh yeah.
And I reference most of my life by movies and songs.
Oh yeah, same here.
Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks, right? I tried to describe what culturally I believe has happened in our country for like the last 10 30 years or so. It's kind of been a slide there. Mm-hmm. And here's how I describe it, is that Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner, and they did the 2,000-year-old man thing. One of the questions was, did you have national anthems back in caveman days? And he goes, yes, but it wasn't nations, it was caves. Every cave had its own national anthem. And he goes, well, do you remember your cave's national anthem? And he goes, come on, you don't forget a national anthem in a minute. It went like this. Yeah. Let them all go to hell except Cave 76. And that's exactly what America has become. Everyone is in their cave going, I got my fucking shit. Yeah. So like that thing that came out in 1966, I can use in my it's you can use these things that other people have written. It's like using books or other media. Yeah. But for me, it's usually songs or movies where I'm like, no, but it's like that scene in blah blah blah.
Oh yeah, man, and it's great that you bring up Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks, because I'm a huge Mel Brooks fan, man. I love Mel Brooks so much, and he's someone that I even remember as a kid, somebody at church said, you should watch Mel Brooks movies. Like you would find him really funny. You're very like silly and like that kind of thing. And so I watched Spaceballs and I watched Young Frankenstein and all these great movies. The movie that I loved as a kid was this movie called History of the World Part 1. Have you ever seen that movie?
Of course.
Yeah.
We're Jews in space. Yeah. We're zooming along, protecting the Hebrew race.
Yes. And that was one of my favorite things, was like how he would do those musical things. And like
the Inquisition? The Inquisition is off the rails insanely good. It's like a real musical.
Yeah, it's so good.
We're on a mission to convert the Jew. Amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember as a kid, there was this one scene. I don't know if you remember it, but there's this one scene where Mel Brooks is playing a comedian.
Stand-up philosopher.
Yes, that's what it was. A stand-up philosopher. And I'll never forget it, man. It was this joke that he says where he's like, so what is it with these Christians? You know they must be poor because they only worship one God. And I remember as a little Christian kid, like knowing that I wasn't allowed to laugh at that, but thinking it was the funniest thing I've ever heard. Like,
it's so good.
Yeah.
Yo, there's all, yeah. B. Arthur, did you bullshit this week?
Yeah.
No. Did you try to bullshit this week?
Yeah, B. Arthur is great in that. Yeah.
So there's so much good in that movie. Bonjour, scum. Yeah, there was a phase in there where I ate Mel Brooks.
Oh,
Same everything he had out, I just went, so good. Young Frankenstein is, to this day, actually just the other day I was at a friend of mine's house and I had watched it recently, and every time I watch it, I find a new joke that I find funny, even though I know every bit.
Yes.
But the way Kenneth Mars says footsteps, you will know by his footsteps. And everyone goes, what? Yeah. It's like the Marx Brothers. But he goes, footsteps, footsteps. And he does it. And the word footsteps, I'm like, I've been using that for like 3 weeks now.
Oh, yeah.
I could hear it in your footsteps.
Yeah, it's that movie is so rich with just everything. And it's so funny because I saw a documentary with him, and he was it was a documentary or an interview, like a podcast interview. I forget exactly what it was, but he was talking about Young Frankenstein for quite a while on it. And he was talking about how some of my favorite jokes in the movie, he was talking about how he didn't want to do them because he thought they were too hacky. So like the walk this way joke, and Gene Wilder starts walking like him.
Of course.
And he was like, no, it's hacky. I don't like it. And then they screened it, and it got such a huge laugh that he's like, the audience speaks and that's it. Like it's funny. And, the same thing with my favorite bit in the whole movie, which is Gene Wilder saying, no matter what I tell you, don't get me out of this cell.
How cruelly I may beg you.
Yeah,
no matter how pitifully I may scream, do not open that.
It's so good. Like, you bastard, why would you leave me in here? Like, it's so good. Here.
I'll kick your rotten heads in. Yummy!
It's so funny, man. And then hearing Gene Wilder be interviewed and him thinking that he's not funny is just nuts to me.
His style was one of, and I think it's something that a lot of actors could benefit from, especially those improv douches. His whole style was not to be funny.
Yeah, it was commitment.
His whole style was, this is happening.
Exactly.
And if I was the person that this was happening to, then how do I respond to this kind of insanity? He did a Woody Allen movie called Everything You Always Want to Know About Sex, but were afraid to ask.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I saw
Great.
that.
It's a vignette movie. And he plays a guy who starts a romantic relationship with a sheep. And in the beginning of the sketch, the little vignette, a sheep herder comes from Armenia to talk to the doctor about a problem he's having. And he goes, well, so explain it to me. He goes, well, I'm in love with a sheep.
Yeah.
And then he describes how him and the sheep got together. And after explaining all of this, the camera cuts back to Wilder. And I don't know, 40 seconds, 50 seconds, which in film time is eternity.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He just sits there trying to find something to say. Yeah. And you can see behind his eyes him, like, I could ask him, no, I'm not going to ask him that. Oh my, and the thing is, he doesn't say a word. It is laugh out loud, unbelievably funny, but he isn't. Yeah. I mean, Jim Carrey he's going for the joke every time. And I'm a big fan.
Me too.
But he's going for the joke every time.
Yeah, and it's funny because as you were describing that was reminding me of Steve Martin, like 70s Steve Martin, which is, my favorite version of him.
Sure.
But he was in this movie. I can't remember if it was the 70s or the early 80s, but it's called Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Sure, it's middle 80s. Him and Michael Caine.
Yeah, it's my favorite performance of his comedically. I just love that movie, and Michael Caine is really funny in it. I mean, everybody's great, but there's this scene, for the listener that if you may not have seen it, there's a scene where he's pretending to be paralyzed, and the Michael Caine at this point is pretending to be a doctor because they're both con men trying to get someone's money and all these different kinds of things. So
yeah, I saw it a long time ago. Wow.
Yeah. And so Michael Caine is pretending to be a doctor, and so he's like touching his legs, and he's like, "You don't feel that?" And he's like, "Nope, I don't feel it." And then he gets a fire pick and just starts smashing the living piss out of his legs. And it's the only reason why it's funny at all is because of the look on Steve Martin's face, and you can see in his eyes how much it hurts, but he can't say anything about it. And it's the funniest thing I've ever seen to this day,
Yeah. He even, did you ever see The Man with Two Brains?
Yes, I did.
Unbelievably great performance in that. Now, I mean, he was, Carl Reiner movie, but I mean, he was, I mean, he's one of the guys, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of funny dudes that kind of showed up, did their jokes for a while, and probably are still in the business working. Someone like, I don't know, Bill Burr, right?
Yeah.
Really great comedic actor, funny guy, and he does work. He's on F is for Family. He's doing stuff. But Steve Martin he's an iconic person in that business. Oh,
yeah. In so many different ways.
Yeah. I mean, it's him. It's I don't know, name your comedian. I mean, Bruce or Jim Carrey's in there totally also.
Yeah.
But, these are guys who are like, look at this way. Even Mike Myers faltered. Mm-hmm. Mike Myers faltered. Like, since The Love Guru, I mean, yeah, he does the Shrek things, but that's really just an acting job.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's mostly doing somebody else's stuff. After that Love Guru thing, it's almost like the entire industry went, you're kind of done, right?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, it's funny because it's either the industry does that or they choose to get out of it, because I know Jim Carrey is one of those guys, and Steve Martin is, and even Eddie Murphy.
I think once you mess up somebody's revenue stream, that's when it happens.
Sure.
Like The Love Guru did so bad and it was so universally panned that it kind of was like, we're not going to take any more chances on that happening again.
Right.
So but there are people like M. Night Shyamalan who keep working even though they're terrible.
Yeah.
Rennie Harlan. Why would anyone give Rennie Harlan a job? And yet, big high profile things he gets given all the time. I find myself watching Rennie Harlan movies going, come on, I could do that.
That's so fun. Oh man. What were, just out of curiosity growing up and stuff, what were your favorite fandoms? I mean, you talked about music and movies, but like just list some of your favorites. If you had a Mount Rushmore of each of those things.
I mean, well, it's different things for different things, sure, isn't it? But I mean, yeah, God, it moves around a lot. Let's see. Music, it's probably like, Queen, The Knack, Sly and the Family Stone, I don't know, a couple others. And then there's there's so many movies and records that are they're such part of my DNA.
Sure.
Like I could watch Stripes, the Bill Murray, Harold Ramis movie.
Yeah.
Anytime that movie's on, just from the credits, I can do every line of dialogue.
Yeah, recite it. Yeah.
Yeah, including the girls, and all the, you're the couple of just the very kind of go-getters we want to head our M50 project. I mean, I can, I can do so.
Yeah, that's how I am with Back to the Future.
I got such a great Back to the Future. I believe is a perfect movie.
You can't argue really that with me, man. I think that movie is so perfect. Like
it is because it. I'm producing a record with somebody right now, and one of the things I said about making art is if you make a promise to your audience, they will reward you handsomely if you follow up on your promises. And so all of the things about the Libyans, the girl, aside from the actual story, it all goes off. Like all the beats happen at exactly the right moment.
Right.
And I mean, some of my, I can't say that about The Shining. I love The Shining. Huge fan. Can't say it's a perfect movie.
Yeah.
Back to the Future is so amazingly good-heartedly entertaining.
It's a lightning in a bottle movie. It really is. Totally. The way that I like to describe it is there's no other movie where if anything went wrong, it wouldn't have worked. If anything went wrong, so that they had to fire the guy playing Marty McFly to get Michael J. Fox to do it. Sure. I mean, it was anything went wrong in that movie and it wouldn't have worked because it's really treading a line the whole time.
Stoltz. I guess the discussion has raged for decades.
Sure.
What movie would it have been with an actor?
Yeah, and that's my Snyder cut. I want to see it. Yeah, that's my Snyder cut. Release the Eric Stoltz cut.
Yeah, totally. But what would it have looked like as because he's Michael J. Fox is a good actor, but he's I would say he fits more on the personality side 100%. Than the brooding serious actor side.
Yes.
And it seems like the tone of the piece would have been completely different in his act.
Yeah, which is why I think it would have that cut of the movie must have been a nightmare. There's no way probably it just not working. Yeah, there's no way it was good. I just can't.
I mean, can you imagine being a Coppola and you're watching the dailies for Apocalypse Now with Harvey Keitel as Martin Sheen's character?
Yeah.
And you're like, I have to let Harvey Keitel know that he's not right for my movie.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks because you feel bad. You have to, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to fire anyone in a thing like that. And nobody wants hostility and anything like that. And performers, we take things, we wear our hearts on our sleeves, at least a lot of us do, and we're very internal. So when we lose a job, we think it's because of us, and 9 times out of 10 it has nothing to do with anything that you did. It just works a little bit better if the guy has a more of a personality instead of
on this coast.
Yeah,
we say on the good coast.
Yeah, I agree.
on this coast, we say it's not rejection, it's selection.
That's a good way of putting it.
It's not rejection. That no one is saying, dude, you blow chunks, get off my set. It's
some of them are.
Yes, it's selection. It's selection, and just. Unless you are truly terrible or, you show up drunk or whatever.
Of course.
If your choice is between Martin Sheen and Harvey Keitel, it's not like you're going, yeah, but he's terrible.
I mean, you're so right. They're both incredible. It's just one would be a little bit better. That's all it is.
I think that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing for a young performer, I think, to wrap their brain around.
Yeah.
That because entertainment is one of those areas where, like, if you're just a smoking good football player, chances are you're gonna get where you want to go. If you're a smoking good actor, that's not true. I mean, there's been any number of actors through history where I've gone, why is this person? How are you? You must read well.
Yeah.
You must do really great in the audition.
Sure.
Because, it's like there was a period in there I was really disappointed in, regularly disappointed in the guy who was in The Producers with Nathan Lane, Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, Matthew Broderick.
Because I think up until a certain point in his career, and now he's really great. I'm a really big fan of Matthew Broderick these days. But as a younger actor, I always felt like the guy never delivered a line of dialogue like he meant it.
Sure.
And he kept working, kept getting new things.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right, and there's many of those people.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, and I'm not saying the man is without talent, because he's not, and he completely is kicking my ass as far as career goes. So This is really just an opinion thing more than a definitive description of someone who's a fellow artist.
Right. It's the Nickelback argument. Like, it's like, yeah, they suck, but they make more records. They make more money than I do. So clearly they're doing something correct, because I'm just sitting here talking about how much they suck. You know what I mean? Like, clearly they're doing something right. So, I kind of want to go into our next bit a little bit. Growing up, what were your favorite snacks?
We weren't allowed to be very snacky. There wasn't much in the way of potato chips or anything like that.
Did you never snuck anything on Crafty or anything as a kid?
Oh, I guess maybe on sets occasionally I would. But the funny thing about, because I didn't have many snacks, is while I am a sugar junkie, I never was like a ding dong guy or a Dorito guy. I'm not a big fan of the salty snacks. Okay. And unless it's full on pectin based candy, like an Ike and Mike's or a Starburst, something chewy, fruity, something like that. Unless it's in that area, I really don't even go for Pop Tarts or any of that sort of thing. So, my mom was kind of, both my parents were kind of weirdly health conscious. Okay. So there wasn't a lot in the way of that sort of thing. So, but I will say, even though I don't regularly have them, and this is probably why I'm having this very strong reaction to it, cheese fish.
Okay. Like goldfish. Yeah, they're real good. Absolutely.
I'll go with that. I'll go with a solid goldfish. And not the baked bullshit. And I'll go the pretzel. Yeah. I'll go the pretzel, but the first bite is always a little disappointing. I do enjoy the pretzel fish, but when I put it in my mouth is going, oh, cheese. Oh, it's pretzel. Yeah. Yeah, there's a little bit of disappointment. So later, let's see. And I mean, I went through a period in there after I moved out, of course, where, freedom. So I was like, what's crap food? Let's eat it. God damn it.
Yeah. And so
we'll have 3 turkey burgers. We'll have 3 cheeseburger chili burgers today.
Were you a cereal guy growing up?
Again, not very much. Mostly it was, granola, things like that. By the way, I have immigrant parents, so they're German. They're German, and so they have all of,
In
that.
this house, we make granola.
Oh, are you kidding? My parents did say when I was said, looked like I was going to be a performer.
Yeah.
They went, all right, and they are German. So, and this is how it went down. They said, we will let you do this, but just know that if you step out of line in any way, not only will we yank you out of this so fast your head will spin, but just to be safe, we will kill you, and then we'll make another one that looks just like you, and no one will be the wiser. And so, so that was
that is
so because
so
they're German. I know Germans say when give them an inch and they'll take a mile.
Yeah.
The way it translates in German is offer them your hand, they will take your arm.
Oh,
See, that's kind of how they're a very that way.
Yeah,
So
that makes a lot of sense.
there was very much granola, things like that. My mom especially was really like, if it goes through a lot of chemical processes, maybe we shouldn't be eating it.
Yeah, that's actually a good way of looking at it.
Yeah. So it was like I said, granola, things like that. And also it was the 70s.
Yeah, that was a very granola decade. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the granola decade.
Yeah, it was the granola. At the very least, it was the granola decade.
Indeed.
Yeah. So every episode of this podcast, I like to review a box of cereal with my guest. And I know it's kind of difficult to do it because we're Zoom conferencing.
No, but I have had many, and I will say, well, who's your review?
Well, I'll let you know. That was the whole point.
Okay.
I usually like to get a cereal that has something to do with my guest in some way, shape, or form. So I spoke with my sponsors over at Funko. Now, by sponsor, I mean that I like them and I buy all of their products. And by spoke to, I mean that I tweeted them repeatedly and they never got back to me. So the cereal that I chose for you, Robbie Rist, is Masters of the Universe Skeletor cereal.
Okay. Are we a grape flavored?
Yes. It looks like a grape flavored kind of Fruit Loop, if that makes any sense. Something like that.
Sure it does. Yeah. Guaranteed to turn your milk gray.
Yeah, probably. It'll make your poop turn gray too. And so, and then in the back here, it has a little maze right there, which is really fun. But yeah, I chose this cereal because, like Skeletor, I feel like a lot of us entertainers are a lot like Skeletor because we're dead inside. And so... So that's why I chose it for you. I never saw the comparison before, but now that you mention it. Yeah. And so it also comes with a little cereal prize as well, which is a lost art form, in my opinion. Didn't have to send away for it or anything. It comes with a little
They're still
Skeletor
giving out.
Right.
Is this commercially available now?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure. I bought this a long time ago for this podcast. So.
Yeah, I'll bet you it's still edible. But that said, but it's because I'm thinking Masters of the Universe cereal, probably not a hot ticket item these days. We haven't had a movie or a cartoon in a while.
I thought it would be fun to review this cereal, but what would be way more fun is to review this cereal as Skeletor. So I would like for you, in the best way that you can, with the information that I've given you, to review this cereal as Skeletor. And once this is all edited and everything, I'm going to put music behind it. It's going to sound great. But yeah, you don't have to. And the great thing is, it doesn't even have to be good, because if it's bad, we're a comedy podcast.
My Frank Langella is terrible.
Yeah.
Wasn't he Skeletor?
He was. He certainly was.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's what I know. All right. So let's see. So a review?
Yes. As best as you can.
All right. Today we'll be trying out Skeletor cereal. Already I like it because it's called Skeletor. And it's purple and it's grapey, which means it'll turn your milk gray, and it's guaranteed to give you a huge sugar rush that will get you all the way to maybe the end of first period before you start getting a headache.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So get the Skeletor cereal because it's been around for a very long time and it's probably not very good anymore. But I don't think that may not be true because it's made out of lots of chemicals and you probably can open the bag and eat it and it's just like yesterday. So, just like me, Skeletor, that's my cereal.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Skeletor cereal, ladies and gentlemen. They said it couldn't be done. They were probably right, but we did it.
Yeah, boy, were they.
Oh man. That's fun, man. I thought that was great. This episode of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes is brought to you by the CrunchCup. Save time in the morning by taking your cereal on the go. Simply add cereal to the inner cup, milk into the outer cup, screw on the lid, and you're ready to crunch. Eat cereal in the car, at your desk, or anywhere else you want. Go to thecrunchcup.com to purchase what I think is a genius invention and use the discount code MikeValdes10. That's Mike, M-I-K-E, Valdes, V-A-L-D-E-S, the number 10, to save 10% off of your order. You can also sign up for their monthly giveaway to win a year's supply of cereal. So what are you waiting for? Go to thecrunchcup.com and use promo code MikeValdes10 to save 10% off of your order. The Crunch Cup. It's better than spooning. This episode of Childlike at Best with Mike Valdes is brought to you by Real Good Foods. I am so excited to announce that Real Good Foods has launched their very first dessert item, ice cream. Real Good Ice Cream is the first ever super premium better for you ice cream. It's extra creamy, so there's no icy or chalky texture like other light ice creams, making it a real ice cream experience with real ingredients. Only 180 calories and 4 grams of sugar per serving. Real Good Ice Cream is sweetened by using allulose, which isn't like regular sugar. It's a naturally occurring rare sweetener found in figs, dates, and maple syrup. Ultimately, it has 1/10 the calories of cane sugar, which means it won't spike your blood sugar levels. Real Good Ice Cream comes in a variety of flavors, and starting today, they can be found at realgoodfoods.com and The Vitamin Shop. And guess what? Real Good Foods is giving all Childlike at Best listeners a discount code that'll make us all scream for ice cream. Visit realgoodfoods.com, choose as many of your favorite items, and use promo code BESTIE at checkout. That's BESTIE at checkout to receive 15% off your order. Real Good Foods. Keep it real. I want to go into your career, which is really interesting because you started as a kid, and the first thing you booked, what commercial was that for?
Well, the first thing I did was like a student film, but the first thing anyone ever saw was a Nestle's Crunch commercial.
Okay.
Yeah, they had like a talking candy bar. And yeah, so, but I think, let's see. I mean, I did between like 6.5 or 7 and 9. I did something like 200 commercials. I worked a lot in that opening salvo, until I got fat and lazy when I was 11. Not
at all.
I did a lot of commercials in that time, and I think you can see it on YouTube. There's one from 1972, so I'm 8. Mm-hmm. And it's a McDonald's. Okay, I did the first round of commercials for the Quarter Pounder.
Okay.
And the commercial did so well that McDonald's company, once they took it off the air, and it ran for like 2.5 years. It was, back. It was still the leather helmeted football days as far as residuals went. So I did make some money from it, but we should thank Gary Coleman for young people being paid a decent wage, because it's because of him. He was like, you know what? Yeah, I goddamn deserve $100,000 a week. I'm floating this goddamn show.
Of course.
But so anyways, but the commercial did okay. But after it went off the air, they internally, in their marketing department, they held on to that commercial for another 4 years, showing it around industrially to show their franchisees how you advertise. It's amazing. And I mean, again, has nothing to do with me. I just showed up. But it did so well that it became an example of how you make that kind of thing. Kind of cool.
That is really cool.
I mean, Yeah. So anyway, so I got a crap ton of, there's a bunch of stuff on YouTube if you look around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I think I have a couple of things up of that. But by the time I did Brady Bunch, I had already worked with the aforementioned John Denver. Yeah. I had worked with Mickey Rooney, who is a huge American actor. Some people know who he is, some people don't. So him, Jonathan Winters, and then all of a sudden everything gets weird. All of a sudden everybody knows me. It's weird.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so your take on the whole Brady Bunch ordeal, if that makes any sense, is so positively hilarious to me, which was for the listener that may not know, you played Cousin Oliver and you came in, was it the 8th or the 9th season?
No, it only went 5. It was the last 6 episodes of the 5th season.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, they must have replayed it so much that I thought there were 9 seasons of that show. But yeah, so, and it's funny because when Cousin Oliver came in, to my understanding from what you have told me, is some of the world was like totally about it, and there was a very vocal amount of the world that was not about it, like at all. And
it's one of the most polarizing television characters in history. It's hilarious.
Yeah, which is so funny to me, man. I don't want to say what it is that you said to me, but what is your take on this whole thing? Because you had such a funny...
Wait, what did I say to you?
Well, you told me this whole idea of like, it's so funny that the world thinks that a 8-year-old kid would want to bring down an entire show single-handedly.
That he was even capable.
Yeah.
That he was even capable of that happening. That's amazing. Are you saying that little 9-year-old bastard took down a television dynasty?
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. They should have hired me out. There was a really great B movie in the late 80s called The Stuff. And in it, one of the characters, it's a story about a dessert that's outselling ice cream 3-1. And the ice cream consortium wants to know why. So they hire a industrial saboteur. He's a guy who infiltrates companies, figures out what they do so other people can ruin them. Wow. And I'm like, I could have done that with the Oliver thing. Just if I brought down the Brady Bunch, like, what show do you not like? Do you not want to see 60 Minutes anymore? Make me a host. Put me on the Madonna tour. Put me on the Madonna tour.
Hearing you say that was just so funny because it's so accurate. It's just so like, how can you possibly think that, that somebody...
But in fandom world, everything is a rife topic. And, I guess the great thing about fandom world is the more vociferous the discussion, the better it is.
Yeah.
Somewhere out there at a turtle thing is someone, and I mean someone singing the praises of the third movie.
Yeah.
And everyone else is like, Turtles in Time? Are you fucking kidding me? You're out of your goddamn mind. And they're like, no, wait, hear me out. And the more vociferous the discussion is, I think the better.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about Cheap Trick records? I'll be screaming at you in minutes.
That's so great. And it's funny because I actually remember when we met at a Comic-Con that was a nightmare. And I don't know if you remember.
Oh, right. It was that one.
Yeah.
One in Florida.
Oh, yeah. Honestly, one of the only 3 to 4 good things that happened was that I met you and I had a really awesome time talking to you.
Yeah, that was super fun.
Other than that, man, it was just a nightmare.
It had problems. I mean,
right. I was hired to be a moderator, and as the moderator, I would, never so much having done moderating in the past and things like that. Never have I had to go to a con and stopped by celebrities' tables to apologize to them because I felt so embarrassed that this was happening. Like, I was like, this is the weirdest. Like, this was, ironically, I feel like it was a producer's kind of a thing. Like, they were trying to make Springtime for Hitler, and they thought that it was going to be a flop.
I think ultimately what happened is they had it in one location for a long time, and then they moved it to another location thinking it was going to do better. It did worse, and then they moved it back, and then it was worse too. Yeah. So, it was a perfect storm of bad things. I mean, the thing about these convention things, I've been to all of them, meaning I was at one, the one we did was actually well attended compared to the worst one I've done.
Really?
And
that's
There's
by
been a
far
few
the
that
worst one I've ever worked, for sure.
Oh yeah, no, there was one where I didn't make anything.
Wow.
Like they just said, like, we lost money, we can't pay you anything.
That is nuts.
And now, I mean, look, it's a business, and
of course
these guys, they do, and also they tend to be run because it's fandom. Because it's fandom, they tend to be run by people that are fans, and not everybody who's a fan is necessarily a good business person.
Sure, yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Occasionally this will happen, but I mean, definitely, Allie and I were like, it was just strange that they'd be like, we'll come pick you up at 7 or 8 in the morning. And then nobody would show up. We'd be like, all right, we're going to the beach.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah, well, also entertainment. Entertainment is living proof that we live in a universe of chaos.
Yeah.
Because everything can and will happen.
Oh, yeah.
It just will.
That's so true. So another thing, too, is like, I did someone's podcast at that con, and they were like, what's the coolest thing that's happened to you while you've been moderating? And I said, the coolest thing was imagining myself as a 5-year-old kid, telling myself that as an adult, I would be sitting on the same stage as the guy who voiced Michelangelo and arguing with him that the second Ninja Turtles movie was actually good.
Yeah, you're still fucking wrong. You're still goddamn wrong.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Sucks.
It's so funny. I genuinely love
three get shit for it.
Yeah.
3 get shit. 2 is awful. Oh, I mean, you were 5. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite Mikey lines are all in part 2. Hey, where do you put the quarter? And goodness, what else? There's so much. Combat cold cuts, that's a great one. I mean, all these different things.
The whole thing. The whole toned down violence thing is ridiculous.
There's that.
And I have much reason to love the movie because David Warner is in it, and he's one of my favorite character guys ever.
Yeah.
He is the supreme being in Time Bandit, or the pure evil in Time Bandit.
Yes.
And he, in that movie, says something that I say all of the time to dumb people. I go, oh my gosh, you are so blissfully free from the ravages of intelligence. So good.
Yeah,
so good.
That's amazing. So, I mean, clearly I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the Ninja Turtles for a second.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So, I know you've answered these questions a million times, but this was just like a regular audition, right?
Yeah, it was another job.
Yeah.
And nobody knew. Nobody knew. They knew they were making a movie, but I don't want to say it's like Casablanca because it's a little different thing, but it's like Casablanca in that they didn't know they were making a classic movie. They were like, we'll crank this thing out. We'll see what happens. And I think that's what happened with Turtles.
Yeah.
They had no, after that Friday when it had like a $30 million opening.
Right.
I started getting phone calls from the production company going, hey, we didn't know that this was going to happen. So how available are you for like interviews in character and stuff? I was like, oh, I guess we're really doing that, because I was getting up at 4:00 in the morning to talk to people in Australia.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, as Michelangelo, and of course it's 4:00 in the morning. I'm like, hey, what's going on? You know.
Oh man, this Michelangelo
Hilarious.
after a hangover. Like,
yeah, totally. Kind of like, I stayed up a little late last night. Sorry.
how funny is that?
It's just another audition. I had a friend in 1988 who had one of the original black and white, the little ones.
Yeah.
You know, when they started out not in full, as I remember, they weren't full comic book size comic books when they came out. They were printed on smaller paper.
Yeah.
And he was like, I think this is really ridiculous and funny and dark and whatever. And I went through it and I went, yeah, interesting, not being a big comic book guy myself. And then I didn't know about the cartoon. So when they said I was reading on a movie for this thing, I thought about the comic book and I went, who the hell is this thing going to be for?
Yeah.
Because it's not, I mean, the guy who showed it to me was in his 30s. So it's not kid content, but
Right.
I didn't know that they had the cartoon that had, shaved a bunch of them, sanded off the edges,
Yeah. Which is, it's funny because the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is this perfect marriage of what I liked as a little kid from the cartoon, but also giving proper honor and homage to the source material, because it was a dark movie. It was a darker tone. It might not have had blood or anything, but it was a darker movie.
I mean, Raph curses in the first 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
I had a friend who said, she's younger than me, but she said when she first saw the movie and Raph said, damn, I think she was 7 or something, but she was like, oh, this is a grown-up movie.
Oh, yeah.
That was her response. Like, oh, this is a grown-up movie. They say grown-up words in it. Yeah, it's funny.
Very, very similar.
Yeah, no,
to
it
something
was.
I would have
It was
said.
a really dark movie. When we were shooting, I was recording my part anyway. When I was recording my part, there was a conversation between whoever was running the session, who was one of the producers, and then one of the higher ups from Golden Harvest. And they went off in the corner and they were saying, we're not sure that Baron was such a good call because this thing might be too dark for kids.
Yeah.
Every time you underestimate children, you're going to be disappointed.
Oh, yeah. And what's so amazing about that movie, and I mean, you can speak to this as well, is just that it stands the test of time, man. Like, it's like, I liked it as a kid, and then people my age are showing their kids, and they're in love with it. I mean, and just generations and generations are probably coming up to you and being like, dude, this is Michelangelo, dude. Like,
how about this? It's not Star Wars.
Sure.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are not Star Wars, but it's like Star Wars in that there are now 50-year-old people who can't wait to show it to their grandkids. I've heard stories at cons about people going, my dad and I did not get along at all, but man, whenever those movies were put on, it was like the two of us could sit in the room together and not hate each other.
Yeah.
And I've heard so many amazing. And again, it's, I understand it's a movie about guys in rubber suits, but it's more than that. And somehow it's brought a lot of people together. And I think that's really beautiful. That's as good a reason as any to be involved in anything, is that it's something that's part of the solution. It's not part of the problem.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, as an artist, that's something we strive for. What we want is to bring people together and tell stories that make people relate. And they go, oh man, like, I feel that pain, or I get that. That's hilarious because I relate. Once
again, we want to be heard.
Yeah.
And if you have something to say on top of it, it's helpful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but we want to be heard. And I believe that definitely the first movie, it has in the most upside down kind of way, it has a real message of family.
Yeah.
It has a real message of, if you have a family, you don't have to be lonely. Like all of the kids they're all runaways, right?
Yep.
So all the Foot Clan kids are all runaways. So it's, there's a lot more to it than you think there is. And that's kind of funny for a movie about guys in rubber suits.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I mean, look, Godzilla doesn't have, and I'm a big Godzilla fan, but Godzilla doesn't have that kind of pathos, and that's a guy in a rubber suit.
Yeah, that's so accurate. And so,
well, it used to be a guy in a rubber suit. Now it's a
it's a CGI,
kind of a shitty CG creation.
Yes, exactly. So, did you experience turtle fever?
Well, I mean, we're still talking about it 30 years later.
Well,
so.
yeah, of course. But I just mean in the sense of like being stopped at the grocery store and like, because it was a voiceover job, not so much being at the grocery store. Sure.
But there's a guy we hired to do a little work on our house, this dude from Romania. And while he was working on the house, he's like, we got to know each other just, talking about stuff. And he's like, so what do you do? I'm an actor, blah, blah, blah. Told him about the turtle thing. And now every time he's trying to sell a new project, going off to another client and trying to get him to give him money, he goes, I did Michelangelo's house, and people always go, oh my gosh, really? You know that guy?
That's
so
great.
It's hilarious, it's like being, do you know who the Steve Miller Band were?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So Steve Miller was really known for making really good records, but nobody knew what he looked like.
Right.
It was like he was just a completely faceless guy who every once in a while put out these cool blues records. And that's kind of what the turtle thing is for me. It's like you don't necessarily know until you know.
Well,
and it's like,
the way that I see it is like you know immediately once you hear your voice, because Mikey is just you. Like I would say maybe you at 10, but maybe not just like on a regular ass Wednesday, but but Mikey is you, so
And the truth of the matter is, I'm not a very good actor. So like what I depend on, no, it's true. What I depend on is, there are two kinds of actors. There are actors that are good at being other people, like Daniel Day-Lewis,
right?
And there are actors that are good at being themselves, like say me.
Yeah.
So that's where my particular strength lies. Yeah. I guess Gary Busey has the same thing. So
there are a lot of actors that do the same thing. Let's be real.
Yeah. Not everybody not everybody gets internally into the material.
Like I love Seth Rogen, but like the only character development he has is his name is Greg in this movie. Like that's really it. You're not really getting emotional depth from Seth Rogen.
That's right. He's not Steve in this one. He's Dave.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you did the Turtles thing, and then another big thing too, which is like it's a little bit past my generation, but you were also in Doc McStuffins, which is an incredible, an incredible job
for 5 years. Yeah. Doc McStuffins is another one of those things where it exists for the right reason.
Yeah.
All cartoons are supposed to sell toys, and this is no different, but it's also a show that exists to alleviate fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's so kids aren't afraid to go to a doctor, or they did a Two Dads episode.
Really?
Where like if there's a kid that like has two same-sex parents, probably feel like they're weird.
Yeah.
Because none of their other friends do. It's only 10% of the population or whatever. So, there's a Doc McStuffins episode about it. You probably just go, oh no, it's all right. And I love
awesome.
that about the show.
Yeah,
I used to read those scripts when I would get them. And I'm a 50-year-old man at the time, and I'm bawling my ass off in my little office where I do my secret crying.
Right.
It was every episode had a little thing that would totally choke me up. Sometimes there was a series of them where the Stuffy character gets a pet, and he's at first terrible at it, and I even choke up thinking about it now. It's so sweet, but it's also informative at the same time. And it's actually Doc McStuffins. All the things that I've done, it's the thing that I'm most proud of.
Yeah, you should be.
And it really has less to do with me than what it does. I mean,
just the project
you go to a children's hospital now, and those characters are on the walls.
That's
they're
beautiful.
They're there to make fuck, man. They're there to make terminally ill cancer kids feel some hope.
Yeah.
And damn, that's a serious thing to carry around.
It's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And like, and it's just, it's an honor to have that privilege, I would say.
Yeah. Well, to be in a lot of entertainment jobs are, oh my God, I'm cop 4 again, or which is, always, look, I'm always happy to work.
Yeah.
But hopefully if you do this long enough, you have a few things that you actually went, yeah, but that was different. That was different than most of the stuff I did. I'll bet you take your average action hero. This would be a really funny discussion for somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
To be like, what's the one you're proud of? Because he spent a lot of time going, get to the chopper, in there has to be things. Is it the scene at the end of Terminator 2 where he lowers into the molten steel?
Yeah.
Is it like, what are your moments? What are your things? And hopefully if you do this long enough, you have things that you can go, fuck, that was awesome. And it doesn't have to be a major blockbuster movie or a cartoon either.
Of course,
I mean, I know people that make just independent shorts. And if you make a lot of them, a few of them are going to be like, holy shit, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because it's not about big money, and it's not about big, it's about making art. The whole thing, whatever, I don't know if any, the people who listen to your show, what they're listening to it for.
Right.
But if there's art people out there, it's not about succeeding. And it's not even really about being your idea of what good is. It is not your job to wonder if it's good or not. It's your job to make it as good as you can.
Yeah.
And at the end, that's all you got. At the end, you have your ability. And that may translate into riches that would make King Solomon blush, or you'll be somebody who has a side job, but you're doing plays and you're doing people's short films, and as long as you're doing the best work you know how.
Absolutely, man. That's so beautiful. And let me ask you these. I just have a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to the kid version of yourself if you had to go back?
All right. That person on the set that you thought had information you might need, go talk to them. Get all the information you can. It doesn't have to be learning. It doesn't have to be, tell me some acting exercises. It's not about that. It's about sharing the excitement of doing it. And somebody who's really excited about doing art, if you talk to them about doing it, the discussion eventually will break out of art into, yeah, but see, here's the thing. Now that we know how to make all this awesome stuff, what are we going to do with it? How are we going to, I've always been really crappy at the marketing part of this business. Like, I didn't know what I was selling. I didn't, there are, if you look at Will Smith's career, Will Smith, when he had that hit, 6 Degrees of Separation,
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was after that he went, well, wait a minute, I want to get in movies. And then he put together a plan for how people are in movies. And part of that is do a blockbuster science fiction film. Now, he had the wherewithal, and the contacts and all of that to make that come to fruition. But if you reverse engineer it a little further backward, the differences start to really disappear, and you're still doing the same thing.
Right.
So think about what do you want out of this? Do you want to be an actor Do you want to be a director? Whatever the thing is, talk to as many people who do it, get to know as many people that do it, meet as many people that do it, and then also do a bunch of it on your own. If you're making your own things, eventually somebody else who makes things is going to go, hey, we should do a thing together. And you are the future, the 11-year-olds. You guys are the ones. I had the opportunity to change the art world, but that at 56, that's not going to happen as much anymore. Right. I'll work, I'll still do things, and I'll be very happy about it. But the real drive forward is always done by younger people. So do as much stuff as you can. Create, write, do stand up. You don't have to do it all professionally, but at least if you have 5 minutes of stand up written, you can perform that anywhere. Yep. And who knows? And somebody might give you $10 for it.
Right.
So do stand up, write a screenplay, come up with a TV series. I'm writing a comic book right now. I don't read comic books, but I don't have the 5 years to turn it into a movie. So I want the images now. Yeah. And if I can sell it, then I'll do it that way. But that's the thing. I've never done that before, but I'm doing it. Yeah. It's an art project. And rather than looking at yourself as an actor or a director or a writer or a whatever, you're an art person. And you can specialize. If acting is really the thing that consumes you, you should do more of that, but you should also do the other stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because
definitely agree.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I definitely agree with that. So much so. Yeah. I feel like, especially now, performing is a 20-sided die. You should be good at a little bit of everything, at least for me. A lot of my favorite types of people that are coming up right now, like Donald Glover or like anybody like that, where it's just like they're multifaceted Renaissance people.
Here's proof that it doesn't have to be good. You just have to finish it.
Yeah.
Kevin Smith.
That's
Kevin
true.
Smith has more crappy art out there. He does. I mean, he's not a good film director. Sure. He has Dogma is a really great movie. I love it a lot, but it's not very good.
Right.
It's like it's a bit like a friendly basset hound.
Yeah.
It's a little frumpy and flops at you like that. However, his special genius is everything he does is Kevin Smith.
Yes.
So he's Kevin Smith who's making a movie, where a film director who's trying to make his way as a film director, and that's what he's going to do in this environment, is going to have a higher mountain to climb than Kevin Smith will, because Kevin Smith really doesn't. I mean, I'm sure he cares how good the art is on a certain level, but I think a lot of it is, if I just get it done and out, I can get in front of people and talk about it, and that is where the word of mouth will come, because he's a really good talker. Yeah. So be Kevin Smith. Only be Kevin Smith. That's you.
Yeah.
Be Kevin Smith. Be Kevin Smith. That is. So all of the things that he does, you can do. Right. Anybody can. You just have to decide that you are going to do it. Tyler Perry. How about that guy? Yeah. There's an example. Tyler Perry was a guy who was living in his car. And now look, do we all like every movie he puts out? I'm sure there's some good stuff in there.
Yeah.
But largely, nah.
Yeah.
But that's not what it's about. He is motivated and he gets things done. And I think in entertainment, it's more about getting things done than how well you get them done.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. Just finish shit, because no one's going to look at anything if it's not done. In office drawers across America are thousands upon thousands of unfinished novels.
Oh yeah.
And any one of those novelists maybe could have gotten a bit of a ride if only they'd finished it.
It's funny that you say that. Yeah. And so I was also going to say in so many coffee shops, there's so many laptops with scripts that nobody's finished.
Are you kidding? There's a neighborhood near here called Los Feliz.
Yeah.
And actually we're in California, so it's Los Feliz. But,
Los Feliz.
but in there's along Vermont there, or Hillhurst rather, there's a row of restaurants, and Los Feliz is where all the artist or writer, like a lot of screenplay writers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I have wanted to walk down that street, passing all of those guys with the laptop open, and they're talking to their agent about pages and all. And I just want to walk down that thing with like just a one wood, a golf one wood, right. in my hand. And just as I'm passing them, not brain them. I don't want to kill anyone, right. But I do want to like just go tunk, just enough to go, stop it. Stop being that person.
Right.
Finish that one, and then finish the next one, and then finish the next one. Look at it this way, if you have 9 things that you never sold, and you sell the 9th thing, what's the first thing that's going to happen? Your agent's going to go, hey, they bought it. What else do you have?
Right.
What do you think the fucking Abyss is? He had that thing around since he was 18.
You're so right, man.
Both those
so
Terminator
right.
movies did so well. They went, well, and then Aliens, and they're like, all right, what do you got, Jim? He's like, oh, yeah, I was working on this thing when I was 18. Yeah.
You're so right.
Don't talk,
Yeah. And so the other question that I have for you is, and you can take this in whatever direction you want, comedically or not, what do you think the child version of you would think of who you are now?
Well, it's an interesting question, because I my problem is I don't like that guy. But let's see. Right. I think of young me, and I'm like, come on, man. Thought that through. Yeah, I don't even think he would engage me.
Really?
I really don't think. Yeah, I think I'd be so far out of that dude's frame of reference that.
Goodness.
Yeah, and it's funny, when I was a kid, and maybe it's because you're young,
Yeah.
but I was fairly convinced that I was right all the time.
Sure.
And the beauty about being the age that I am now is I realize how wrong I am all of the time.
Oh, yeah, dude. So, the best thing about turning 20 is that I realized that everybody is just as stupid as I am.
Yeah,
and that's the best thing about being 20 is you realize we're all just figuring this thing out, man.
Wait, that's if you reach that point of awareness.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the thing. So here's the thing. When you're 50, here's what you have to look forward to. Yeah. Again, you're a performer, you're an artist. Yeah. Sure, there's some insecurities that go along with that sort of thing. At least I know I had them.
Oh, never. I'm so great. No, I'm kidding.
when I crossed 50, I went, wait a minute. I don't give a shit if anyone doesn't like me or not.
Oh, man, I can't wait.
This is great.
Man, I can't
wait. And now, now I can just as long, I mean, you want to use the force for good. You don't want to be drawn to the dark side.
Yeah.
But definitely, I don't have any problem. When I work with artists, I frequently am like, yeah, but that's terrible.
Yeah.
And they'll look at me like, what? I'm like, no, look, whatever. You know what? Everything's terrible until it's not. So let's not. I don't care that I hurt your feelings. I'm trying to make your goddamn thing better.
Right.
So it's so liberating.
Where can people find you online?
I got a YouTube channel. I got a Facebook page. If I'm not in Facebook jail, I have an Instagram. I have what else? I have a website. RobbieRist.net. I have a Bandcamp page, Robbie Rist, got a bunch of stuff on there. There's stumptheband.com. That's the website for the horror movie I made.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I'm around. And also,
awesome.
I'm pretty available if you send me a instant message. Mike, eventually I'll get back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it only takes a global pandemic, but we made it happen. You know?
You know what? Let's wait off the next global pandemic and let's do this again.
No, man, I'm just teasing you. But so real quick for me, you can find me on Instagram at Mike Valdes, on Twitter at I am Mike Valdes, and you can go to.
I follow him on Twitter on Instagram. So.
Oh yeah, you do. Yeah, he's so sweet for doing so. And you can follow all of that stuff, and you can listen to my music and watch my comedy on whoismikevaldes.com. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being on this, Robbie. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, this was super fun.
I'm sorry I talked so much, but
no, that's really exactly what we were trying to achieve.
All right.
But anyway, thanks so much for listening, everybody. Bye, besties. That was a Geek Bro podcast. For more podcasts like this one, visit geekbro.net.